Hi, I'm Paul Bowman, CEO at Wexer, the digital fitness specialist who deliver over 25 million fitness experiences per year for our partners worldwide. Welcome to the Wexer podcast. We'll be speaking to industry experts to bring you insights and advice to support your business journeys. In today's episode, I'll be chatting with Chris Smith, President and CEO of Fitness World Canada and Principal at All Things Fitness and Wellness. Chris, how are you?
Very good, Paul. Good to see you.
I did leave out the HFA title as well, but want to give the listeners some updates on the HFA side because I know you're slowly exiting.
Yeah, I just transitioned a couple of days ago. Today is July 2nd, so I ended my chairmanship of the Health and Fitness Association a couple of days ago as chairman, and I'll be ex officio for the next year. So I'll continue to support and help where I can, but I've turned over the reins to Lou Carlson and obviously the fantastic staff led by CEO Liz Clark, and so certainly in good, capable hands.
Nice one, and thank you for all your efforts and everything you did there. It's pretty incredible. But today we're going to very much focus on your entrepreneurial journey. But actually, before we even get into that, did fitness find you, or did you find fitness? It's the question I ask all guests. Where did it all start? Where did the passion start, Chris?
Yeah, I think I found fitness. And then, it just kind of evolved from there, right? So, fun fact is I'm 50 years old and I've never had a drink of alcohol or any kind of tobacco product or drug in my entire life. Ever.
Wow. Yeah. Yes.
And so people say, well, how did you do that? Or what do you mean? And that's crazy. And I played American football, collegiately and then a little bit professional. And, it's an environment where that's what most people are doing. But when I was in sixth grade, I grew up in a rural area of Northern California. So when I say rural, I'm talking no stoplights, right?
Right.
Couple stop signs. People say, what city? I go, I'm not from a city. What town? There was no town. I lived in the country, right? That's where I grew up. And so, for me, when I told them I was going to play professional football, I was 12 years old. I told a teacher that as part of a project of what are you going to do when you grow up type thing. And they laughed at me and they said, you're out of your mind. You're not going to be a professional athlete. I said, I'm going to get a scholarship playing football. And they were like, no, you're not. Nobody here has ever done that. That's never happened here before. I was like, well, I'm going to do it. Okay. And, and truthfully, then I think the naivety of being such a young man and not knowing anything, right? No one in my family had even graduated from college, right? Or university. Right. So it was certainly unheard of. And it just wasn't a path that a lot of people took from where I was. But I made a decision. So they said, well, how are you going to do that, right? I got challenged. And I said, well, I'll work out. I'll exercise. I'll never drink. I won't do any drugs. I'll be straight-laced kid. And I'm going to go get things done and figure stuff out. Okay. And truthfully, I'm just such a strong-willed guy, and I kind of always have been, I kind of morphed in my own reality where, still to this day, never did. And I just committed myself to exercise. So, we were talking last time we chatted a little bit, right? We were talking about high rocks and the running, whatever. Yeah. I used to run miles a day with 2 basketballs in my hand, dribbling both hands.
Just
all around. I would run 5 miles dribbling basketballs, right? I would do whatever I could do to figure out to put myself forward from an athletic achievement standpoint. Because for me, similar to you hear about in some scenarios today, for me, fitness was a vehicle to sport and being great at sport was a vehicle to getting out of my environment and breaking out and being able to, go maybe do things that others in that area weren't able to do. So, so I think I found it, I guess is maybe the right way to do it. And then finding my way into the industry, maybe I found exercise, but maybe the industry found me, right?
Okay. I like that. And then how I love that story in terms of the grittiness, especially as such a young fella. Was it the determination to get out of the situation, or was there someone that pushed you to do it? Where did that come from as a 12-year-old to be that gritty? Because you only see that very rarely, even these days.
Yeah, I grew up a little bit rough. My parents had been divorced maybe a year or so before that. And again, we didn't come from money. We were fairly poor. Okay. I was a kid who had 1 pair of shoes, and when that pair of shoe got holes in it, you got a new pair, right?
Okay.
Grew up kind of that environment, that time frame. Just a little bit different world certainly than what kids live in today. But I think it was there. But look, I had great parents. My parents loved me to death for sure, and they were very supportive of everything I wanted to do and those types of things. And then I do tell folks that I think I was very fortunate, and that the coaches and the people that did surround me, did some powerful things. I had somebody one time where, truthfully, arrogantly, I said, I don't think you understand how athletic I was, and this and that. And they said, maybe it wasn't your athleticism, but maybe the reason that somebody really wanted to help you, some of these coaches and mentors that you talk about reached out to you, maybe it's because they felt sorry for you. And in some ways, I'm not disagreeable to that, where they looked at this kid and said, hey, this is a pretty good kid, but like he needs some help. And so let's give him a hand up. And so I kind of put that in the mentality of even like back to entrepreneurial spirit about, well, how do you do that? Or what does that look like if that's what we're going to center our talk about, which is, you know, pay it forward and pay it back.
Yeah.
So
nice.
I often get people tell me all the time that I'm too generous, truthfully.
Yeah.
You do too much for too many people. And I say, well, a lot of people did a lot of stuff for me to be where I am today. And if they didn't stick out their hand when they didn't have to, right? They weren't responsible for me. But people making that effort, I think, is ultimately back to, you know, what makes the world a better place, right? People say, well, kindness takes a lot of different shapes and forms. So if there weren't people that were kind to me, to kind of look after me, put an arm around me, a wing, whatever you want to call it, I certainly wouldn't have been able to do what I've done. I'm not egotistical enough to think that I did this all by myself, right?
Yeah, no, but I just love that journey, and you know, I've got quite a lot to do with a professional rugby team here in New Zealand, and you know, you get warmed by the stories. We have this situation where they have to bring their water from home, and they pour it into the ground, and they talk about how they got here, and you know, many of the stories are, you know, we had to decide upon who ate that day out of my brothers, you know, and how many people in particular, usually kind of one PE teacher or one fitness person that believed in them, that helped them, and how much they give back themselves because of that situation. I think it's very, very similar to your situation. So I think it's great, and I think it sets you up well as an entrepreneur, right? Because what's your biggest lessons you've learned from that upbringing and in your entrepreneurial journey? I'm getting right into it, but I feel like it flows.
Yeah, it's all good.
Good, yeah. So I guess, and then I guess you've held leadership roles across several areas in the fitness industries. You know, maybe a bit of a quick background for listeners worldwide about Fitness World Canada.
Yeah, long story, short story is I ended up here in Canada working in the previous business, which was called Steve Nash Fitness World and Sports Clubs. At the early days of the pandemic, that business was put into bankruptcy by that ownership group. There was an opportunity through that process and working with, you know, the legal groups and the bank who then owned the debt, along with the trustee in that process, to kind of reshape the business. After a bit of a sales process and talking with different people, it was recommended to me that I should be the one to buy it. And I said, well, I'm not sure how that's going to work, but let me go to work and think about that some more. And so I worked on my pro forma. I'm fortunate, again, just back to life and whatever. I have a lot of what I would call finance people in my family. When I say that, there's 4 CFOs in my family. So on the other side of my family, actually, they're all on my wife's side. But either way, they're all really smart, brilliant, financial people. So they were able to help me build out a really kind of fantastic pro forma. I then subsequently took that pro forma and I started having calls with different investment groups. And I was in conversations with people, you know, all over the place. And it was exciting in a lot of ways, right? I was like, wow, this could be really interesting. And then I just kind of sat back and said, if I'm going to do this, you know, and I really want to do this, who would be the right person to help me really do this? Who could be the best partner that could help, maybe not just be a great financial partner, but who is somebody that could also steward me along the way and help guide me around growing this brand and growing this business into something phenomenal. And it was good, as I didn't have to look very far because I've had the privilege to, you know, work with Mark Mastroff in the past.
Of course,
So able to call up Mr. Mark Mastroff and say, hey, Mark, got a great opportunity here. What do you think? And then obviously, you know, the rest is history in the sense that he said yes. And here we are today, and the business is thriving, and I'm really proud of it. But yeah, it's been tremendous.
And how many sites are you at now, Chris?
We're at 17 open. I just signed a lease for 18. And I have about 4 clubs I'm actually probably going to close on in the next 6 months that are acquisitions.
Nice.
So I've got a few irons in the fire, and then we're working on franchising right now as well. Likely to announce that in a very formal way, press release, all that kind of good stuff. So you're hearing the news here first. I was
going to say exclusives here on the Wexer podcast.
Final stages of the, you know, franchise disclosure document. And we'll continue to grow corporately as well, because we think that, you know, obviously we have a track record of performance and getting our facilities, you know, profitable, et cetera, et cetera. So Yeah, a lot of plans, a lot of good stuff going on.
Nice. And then again, a lot of entrepreneurs listen to this podcast, and you're balancing a few things. So in terms of HFA, you've got all things fitness and wellness, and you've got Fitness World Canada. Like how do you balance all of it? What does the day-to-day look like for you, and what advice would you be giving to people that are trying to do multiple different things? I think that's becoming more the norm, right? Rather than lots of different gigs that people are managing at the same time.
Yeah, I think for me, when you're in leadership and you're an entrepreneur, and if you're obviously the leader of that, and maybe you're the entrepreneur with the big idea, and then you go out and hire a leader because you figure out that that's not your skill set, or that's not work that's worthwhile or that you want to do. But what I would share with folks, what I've learned, and I think some of it is through even my experience with the HFA, and then I also have a personal training school, right, as well, called Personal Training Institute. So I'm doing a few different things. What I've learned, what I would say is, like, if you think about sport, you were mentioning rugby a moment ago, and like whether it's football in the US or soccer, it doesn't really matter. But if you look at the best players in the world, right, you'll see them lead their team out at times onto the pitch or the field or the game, whatever the court, whatever sport it is. They're going to lead they're going to lead from the front, and they're going to walk the team out. And so visually, it's easy to see that's lead from the front. I think there's at times where, depending on your business or where you're at in your business, you have to lead from the middle, which is more like that's you in the middle of a team huddle, and you're going, all right, you're making eye contact with everybody, and you're rallying the troops at, say, halftime or before the game, or maybe it's even after a tough loss, and you got to bring everyone together because that was a tough deal, and like how do we get through this together, this adversity that we're experiencing, and you got to lead from the middle. And so I think sometimes that's maybe where I think some people get leadership wrong, or even entrepreneurship wrong, is it's this thought or idea that you have to constantly lead from the front. But if I lead from the middle, leading from the middle means I'm pulling everyone in. And I got to bring everyone close to the center. Now, we might not get somewhere as fast, but I'm guaranteed to get there if I take you all with me.
Nice.
If I just lead from the front, I don't even know if you're still following me. I'm like,
exactly.
Where are you guys? Right? But if I lead from the middle, I know I can take you all with me. And so I think, to me, that's part of the entrepreneurial journey and part of the leadership journey that I've learned over the years. It's, because again, I think often we have this expectation of folks to go as fast as we go, or to know what we know, which, again, that's just a bit juvenile or business immature, business maturity, that sort of thing. And you learn over time. And so, for me, with where I'm at this stage of my life is, I certainly don't profess to have all the answers, but I think I have learned some things that are effective in terms of leading teams and leading people and driving, revenue and success and profitability and all the rest of it.
And I already have people. I'm embracing people's questions already through this, because they'll say, when do you know when to lead from the front or lead from the middle? I think a lot of conversations over with entrepreneurs is, they limit the growth that they have, right? Based off the idea, based off their ego, based off so many different things. And I think leading from the middle is a great analogy that's nice and easy to bring the team with you to grow the team. But is there things where you have to lead from the front to really execute an idea, like in terms of, hey, I believe in this. I've got to lead from the front to get people to follow me outside of normal operating?
Your job as the leader, in my opinion, back in entrepreneurship, is you have to define the vision, right? Yeah. And then you have to define some of the strategy, but not all.
True.
And then really what you're counting on is your team to execute the tactics. Yeah. If you're at scale and you're at enterprise level, and I've said, well, hey, I'm a small business. I'm not at that scale. I don't really have vice presidents or multi-unit people that are below me. It's like it's all on me because of the scale of my business. Well, then the answer there is obvious. Like, you're going to have to lead from the front in a lot of stuff because you're just not at scale yet in certain areas of business. So as things build out, right? But so like back to that, I would use language. My team would use language where we would talk about, again, it's not just lead, follow, or get out of the way, but it's even more of this like tell, show, do. So again, if I've told you what we're going to do and why we're going to do it, and then we align like, hey, that aligns with our vision statement, our core values. So therefore, like, it checks the basic boxes of our business tenets. And then from there, I've told you, I'm going to show you how to do it if you don't know how. But I need to count on you having autonomy to go do it now. Now, again, some may say, well, gosh, what if they don't learn the first time? Well, I mean, you got to make those decisions, right? Are people doing stuff because they don't know how, or they're a slower learner? Because some people need to be shown things 2, 3, 4 times. That's okay too, provided at some point it clicks, and then they're going to take off and run with it. If it becomes obvious it's never going to click, then you got to kind of look yourself in the eye and go, wow, I made a bad people decision here, and I got to figure out how to unwind it, because this isn't going to be good for either of us, right? It's not good for anyone. But I think, that's the idea of just kind of tell, show, do, getting out in front of things, and just, driving from there.
You have a great way of very, very simplifying very complex thoughts, which I enjoy listening to, Chris. I guess with that, like, a lot of listeners here, of course, dial in from a digital point of view. I guess as a CEO of physical clubs, how has it been navigating the world? I think the changing landscape in regards to the rise of digital solutions and hybrid models, like. Has that been something that's been on the radar in terms of affecting strategy, or something that's been embraced? Or
I think it's it's different strokes for different folks, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I just want to save the planet along with the rest of us, which is get everybody moving, healthy, and active. And I think anyone that thinks that there's a one-size-fits-all solution to that is wrong, because I think it's just you got to meet people in the moment. I do think we're seeing some transformation now, and I think we'll continue to see some transformation. But I also look at it in a not dissimilar way to what we saw even when boutiques first came out. So when boutique fitness first arose, everyone thought, oh my gosh, this is the end of the world. Boutiques are going to take over the universe. Well, we actually know that not to be true. In fact, I would say they might be the segment that's struggling the most, truthfully, from a financial perspective. That's a tough business model to sustain. It is a very challenging, and I back to entrepreneurs, I give them all the credit in the world, because that's a tough model. It's a tough model. That being said, what I was going to, or the point I was trying to make, was I think a lot of people had like a core gym membership, maybe an auxiliary gym membership, plus a boutique membership. So I think what we're seeing now is like, I'm wearing my Aura ring, and there's other rings out there, and then we've got Whoop and this and that, and then we've got this thing to track your blood sugar and this thing.
Sure.
I don't think even most of the people that are really consumed in fitness, and if we said people that are really into health, wellness, fitness, exercise, if they make up about, in North America, they make up about 25% of the population, right? And it varies by country. Eastern European countries are still in single digits in many of those places. But we are seeing the adoption rate continue to go up, even globally, kind of all over the place. So I think that digital will help those countries catch up significantly faster. Whereas you would say, hey, North America has been growing by 1% every couple of years, give or take. I think some of these other countries are going to go 2-3% every single year for like the next 10 years. And I just think globally, we're going to see a huge footprint. I mean, you think about China, India, because they're just now getting some of the technology, if you will, as well as what I would call brick and mortar stores are all kind of simultaneously coming into their marketplace. So I think you can see some really kind of cool, explosive, life-changing, make the world a better place type stuff.
I love that. Absolutely love that. And then looking at, I want to dive into your kind of member experience and operational growth, because you've made major strides. I guess, like, what were the key drivers for you getting that right in the last few years?
I think it was just being honest with ourselves, right? Or trying to be, and challenging ourselves, and getting some focus groups together, both of team members and even asking questions of members to say, if you're going to buy a business out of a bankruptcy situation and do it, we said, well, what would we do different? And we said, well, we do this different. And ultimately, where we ended up, we're going to do everything different. That's actually part of the crazy story, right? So when we bought the business, I redid every lease. So I did 17 commercial leases in 45 days, which anyone that has done commercial leases understands the challenges of getting that done, but we got it done. We redid our entire business model. We shifted from what I would call a mid-tier kind of center of the market kind of club price point offering or whatever, and we changed to kind of a HVLP 2.0 play, 3.0, however you want to think about it. Full services, full amenities, but just bundled pricing and packages. No more a la carte stuff. Switch personal training from cash basis over to an EFT model, right? We did integrate technology and take some classes and some different things online. back to that hybrid model that you spoke about. So we changed everything, which,
you did.
Certainly was a big risk, and there was risk there. And the risk was, well, worth the reward. We got rid of prepays, no prepaid memberships. So back to that, we believe that the recurring revenue was the key to our growth, both then and now, which has been a big part of our story, right? So, I've added accretively more than $300,000 of dues every single year since we opened on an annual basis. So you start doing the math on that times, 12 months. It's pretty easy to see how the business has grown and how it's thriving. Just because of the compound effect of the dues, right?
Yes. Yeah, no, nice. And again, everyone that I've gone to, it gives you kudos in terms of how much you've turned it around so quickly as well. But I guess that goes back to the people as well, in terms of you set the vision, you set most of the strategy, and they delivered on the tactics.
Yeah, I think that's kind of accurate. At the same time, as I was frontline. So when I first bought the business, we opened up out of bankruptcy. It was interesting. I closed on papers. I signed the papers, and then the bank said, "So when do you think you'll have the first one open?" And this was on a Wednesday, and so I said the following Friday. They said 9 days from now, you're going to open stores again. I said, yeah, 9 days. And even my partner at the time was like, "How are you going to do this?" I said, "I'm going to do it." Like, what do you mean? I go, "I'll open the club myself." And so for the first 30 days, I was at one of those clubs at 5 a.m. until 11 p.m. I ran a club.
Right.
Then before, I'll do it again. And so back to, when do you lead from the front, right?
Yes.
When it's necessary, when it's needed, when you're trying to show the team that, hey, I'm willing to get as dirty as you are. It's like, I tell
in the
people
details.
Like, if I walk into one of my clubs and, I don't want to use too much profanity, if I walk into a club and there's shit on the floor in the washroom, I don't get my team or a janitor.
No, you saw.
I go get a bucket, I get a mop, I get what I need to do, and I clean up the mess.
Yes,
because I think if you don't do that as a leader, then you are really setting bad precedent, bad example that says, I'm better than you. I don't deserve to do this, or I've earned the right to do different. Like, no. I think that's where you get it wrong. So but we did, and we opened 2 clubs every week for about 6 weeks straight, and by the end we had them all open and cranking and going. And I mean, I can give you some quick stats. The previous business had 129,000 members.
Right.
When it went into bankruptcy. When I reopened, we had 44,000 members left.
Okay. Right.
So that's how many members it lost over that.
Wow.
And it was closed for about 6 months, right?
Yes.
So when I bought the business, when I took it all the way out, I mean, I can tell you now we're roughly 100,000 members, give or take.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That was with 29 locations, by the way, versus say 17. So the business has more than rebounded. In fact, most of my clubs have more members now than they did then.
Nice.
And what's also interesting is, in our HVLP world, my average dues is actually, high 30s. Whereas a lot of the HVLP operators that I talk to, their average dues are in the low 20s. So I'm getting, $15 or more per month on a per member basis. And again, that's strategic. And then there's some operationalizing and maximizing and some of the things we're doing. We average over $75,000 a month in personal training in the HVLP kind of marketplace. We average about 15% POS PT attachment. So that's people buying personal training the day they buy their membership.
Wow.
So we got a big part of our business that is very, fitness centric. So we're not just trying to be the operator that has 4 walls, equipment, you do your thing. We're happy you don't pay very much, go away. No, we're very invested and interested to helping you accomplish whatever brought you in the first place.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, that's the nice part of new companies. You get to invent a new tagline. And so, like, our tagline is your fitness, your way.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I like that. I imagine the members appreciate it too.
We think so. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that would point to the appreciation of the membership back to just success, is like in anything, right? Like, if you're a restaurateur, you open your restaurant, you want to provide great service and great food. And the goal is those 2 things were so good that people want to come back.
Correct.
And so that's one of the things I'm most proud about, is that's where I feel like we're getting it right, because our attrition is very low. Yeah. So that's how we're getting it right. We're investing in the right equipment. We're investing in the right people, the right product, the right pricing, because not only are people showing up, they're staying.
Yeah, agreed. A bit controversial to ask on a podcast, but do you find that sometimes the fitness industry overcomplicates what we're doing. You know, I always go back to, and the reason I got into the industry, probably similar to you, is to support or inspire people. And I think some people, they need, you know, and I kind of define that as how confident are you? You know, the more confident they are, the more they do those routines well, you know, more they'll do events, more they'll do this. But there's a whole lot of population that sit on that support side that we've got to engage, you know, with, meet them where they are, you know, get them to start and developing the habits. Like,
yeah, I do think your core question of like, is the industry tend to overcomplicate it? My answer would be yes.
Yeah.
And I think some of that comes out of the fact that now we've got big data, right?
Correct.
Everybody's got a data not everybody, because I don't, but a lot of companies, right? Big companies certainly do. We got our data warehouse, and we got our BI tools, and we got this, and we got this, and you know, it's kind of that paralysis or analysis versus, well, what's going on in the club?
Yeah.
You said, well, my club's struggling. Let me show you the spreadsheets, Chris, and let me show you this and show you this. And well, I just want to go to your club.
Correct.
What do you want to go to the club for? I want to go to the club, and then I want to go to the coffee shop that's like all across the parking lot from your parking lot. And I want to go in and say, hey, I love your guys' coffee. Hey, who's the manager? And say, Paul. Hey, Paul, how's it going? My name's Chris. I work across the street at the gym. Do you go to the gym? No. Hey, have you met our manager? His name's Bobby. I've never met Bobby. And then I go to the club and I solve your problem.
Yeah, agreed.
You guys have no leads because you're not doing any community outreach. You guys aren't even owning your own community, and you're somehow trying to figure out how to blame digital marketing because the data says that the leads are, and Google changed the algorithm and blah, 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 blah. Like the answer, to simplify it, I would say the answers are in the clubs, first and foremost. I think you got to use the aggregate data to help inform decisions. But I think, too often we're getting to this level of not necessarily sophistication, because honestly, it's not sophistication. It's laziness. Because it's a lot easier to look at a spreadsheet and go, oh, I know what the problem is, than to say, I'm going to go spend a day with that leadership. I'm going to spend a day in that club and in that community, and I'm going to figure it out. And again, it doesn't matter if you're in the fitness, health, wellness space, whatever segment of it you might be in, or again, if you're in the restaurant business, I don't really care. I think it all applies the same. If I want to figure out why a restaurant's not working, I can just sit there all day and watch, and I'll go, well, their service sucks. The people are sitting down and it's taking on average 7 minutes before they get water. Like, no wonder they're a little bit frustrated.
Get the basics. Well, and it's quite, you know, doing this podcast and of course being fortunate about, you know, hanging with some of the most successful clubs in the world, it always comes back down to that, you know, the individual leader saying, go in the club and I can solve the issues, rather than things. But one of the challenges that I always hear as well from the larger enterprises is, you know, it's hard to do that at scale. Like, you know, like, is that going to be one of your greatest challenges moving forward, or is that just you're not going to compromise? That's what you're always going to do when you're looking at struggling clubs, to make sure that you're there.
No, I don't think you can't scale that. You can't replicate and duplicate that. But again, to say back to just building a team and how you train and develop and mentor, and what does your actual succession planning look like. And, you know, again, I think that's back to, there's just certain elements that you can't do all the time, right? So in my space, I have leaders underneath me that certainly understand my expectations. And I would say if I go to a club and the business is vacant of what I would call just the low-hanging fruit, simple things, I'm actually never disappointed at the manager, right? That's not their fault. I'm going to pull the vice president outside and say, what was that?
Nice.
That's their job, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And so again, that's very few and far between, but I'm just saying that's where the accountability ultimately would lie. But no, I certainly don't have an expectation that as we scale out, and even in my past life when it was 29 clubs, I could still do it, right? I could still get in there, but at a certain point in scale, you certainly get to a place where that's not operationally possible.
Yeah.
But for now,
well done, and I think it's good insights for everyone listening. Moving to all things fitness and wellness, in terms of, you know, became a pretty strong platform and a good voice for the industry. You've I always kind of feel like it's part of fitness world in some aspect. Or am I wrong in that? Or, you know, what's the plans? I know we talked offline about the plans of how it's going to evolve, but, you know, what was the idea behind it? What was your thinking? And how will it evolve?
Yeah, I mean, well, it came about, you know, Mark, my partner, Mr. Mastroff, is just always challenging me, right? With, have you thought about, how do you think about? And he said, hey, what about starting like a YouTube type channel media thing that's just focused on fitness, this, and that. And again, we had a long talk, and we looked at some examples outside of the fitness space. One was actually a gaming company that we looked at, and it was just really interesting. So I said, well, I wonder if we could do that. And again, you're doing this podcast. There's a lot of content even within our space. So I thought, well, how can we narrate or tell the story differently? And it's not to say that yourself and all the others that do stuff aren't great at what you do or credible. I just said, what if we brought a trained media person into the space where I don't have to teach them how to interview people or be conversational, and they can edit and produce and do all that for the content. And then I can do more the ideation side of more like a producer, if you will, that says, this is the content we need to go get. Yeah. And I want you to go get it and professionalize it in a bit of a different way. Yeah. That was a big part of it. And the other big spin of it is, my partner in that business, Chrissy Van, she's a woman. Yes. There's not that many women in the space telling the stories, though. Totally. Which is also a different kind of tint, if you will, different slant. And so, there was a couple of different nuances in terms of the origin stories and how it came about. It's been very successful North America-wise. We've just now started to really branch out more globally. We attended FIBO this year and starting to, intersect more there. We're starting to produce some additional content that we think will be less B2B and maybe more B2C potentially. And then maybe more personal trainer driven. It might still be people within the industry, but it'll be less what I would call C-level or even vice president, executive level. And now it'll be more like, hey, how can we help people at the ground floor of the health and wellness space have a career here? So again, I think I've had the privilege of coaching, and onboarding. I did the math. It's like probably over 5,000 trainers in my career.
Nice.
Like a lot, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen a ton of people have tremendous success.
Yes.
And I've also seen a ton of people fail.
Yeah.
And there's definitely at this point a bit of a formula for what the successful ones do and then what the ones that fail don't do or whatever, right? And I just want to try to cut through that because I do think it's an amazing industry. It's an amazing space. And in order for us to really continue to transform and make the world a better place, we need more people fighting that fight.
Correct. Sharing those stories.
And as much as we talked about AI and hybrid models or whatever, you go to AI and it'll spit you out a program. But that's not a coach bringing the program to life. That's still not going to push you to the next level. I mean, they've done studies. Just somebody standing next to you watching your workout doesn't say a word the whole time. You'll work out 10% harder.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, well, and then also the how much you pay that person also affects how hard you're going to work out as well. So add those two combinations.
Impact, right? So I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon.
No.
I mean, certainly as technology evolves, I'm not going to sit here and be a technologist and predict all the future. But I do think that, there's still a time and a place for kind of all models and kind of what works and what doesn't work. But that's how that one came about. It's been really fun, been a cool project. Christy does a great job. And we've got some good sponsors and support there that are supporting us now. And we're just going to continue to try to grow.
Yeah, well done. Well, look, I think the more that I always kind of see that success leaves clues. So the more we can put successful people on that have been able to do good things, that's good for the inspiring generation coming forward. Because I think there is a concern. When we came up in fitness, the fitness industry was real clear, the clear pathways, and I think so much of the technology stuff is changing what a career pathway can look like, which I think is good. I think it's good for entrepreneurs that good ideas that can solve people's problems, but it might not be the traditional way. And I think we got to communicate what's changing in the industry quite often to that younger generation. And of course, they're wanting to listen to podcasts and be on YouTube more than they're on any other type of media. So why not meet them where they are?
Yep.
Yeah. My 2 cents. I guess what's the, in terms of trends and shifts that you're kind of most focused on, both in fitness world and in all things fitness and wellness? I know you mentioned PT, but like what else is kind of what's the priorities at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's, I'm not seeing a lot of change necessarily, even in my travels to competitors or whatever. I think it's a lot of just a little bit of a story of reinvention. But I mean, I think strength training for sure, and then how people strength train. So some people strength train in the form of HIIT training and some more of this high intensity stuff. I do think a lot of this younger generation are a bit overly enamored with bodybuilding.
Sure.
And it is interesting. The more questions you ask, the more you realize they don't know, which is fine. I think a lot of them if that's what gets them into wanting to be healthy and fit, then by all means, I don't really care what inspires you to get there. I think we're continuing to invest in just all things that are kind of out there. So, we've got recovery spaces, we have group fitness classes, personal training, small group spaces, strength equipment. I think maybe where we might see some continual movement is, again, I think with the advent of the AI and the technology, is even in the commercial space, how we're able to access our facilities and how we're able to use them and bring those to life in even a better way for our members. And so again, there's some platforms out there now where you can basically integrate all the equipment in your club, and then your members can interact with AI in a way where it gives them a program based on the equipment you have in your club, regardless of who you buy your equipment from, right?
Correct.
Which, that type of stuff that can kind of make it a little bit easier or even less friction for the member, I think is beneficial. I think the more that we can continue to encourage people, like, here's how you do hybrid workouts, even at home, right? Like, what does a chair workout look like? Or even just, a lot of people don't have space for a home gym, depends where they're at. Vancouver's a tough city, but it's like, for me, it's like, but do you have room to put a kettlebell in your apartment? Like, what do you mean? I said, if I give you one kettlebell, I promise you I can give you a program where that one kettlebell, you'll be sorry that you picked it up at the end of it. Not sorry in like, oh my God, I hate that kettlebell. You'll be like, oh my gosh, that was crazy.
Great workout.
Right?
Yes.
We start putting swings and snatches and goblet squats and all the rest of it in there. I mean, it's
going to beat you up in a good way.
If you're on your own rug floor, I'll give you a Turkish get-up just for giggles. And but like, I mean, I think some of that stuff, right? It's just as you kind of see people find the right solution. So I don't see any seismic shifting currently. I'm not seeing it. Now, that being said, I think everyone is investigating the AI stuff. I think everybody's using AI agents and chatbots, whether it be on their e-commerce platform or their member onboarding experience and their, campaigns and workflows. Like, it's getting layered in very specific and explicit places. Maybe where the biggest change that we will see is maybe on some of the human capital is where I can see actually some of the stuff changing. So if you look at the AI agents in marketing right now, and your ability to create imagery, or you can have it write a song and you can put it to music.
Correct.
You can have it make a commercial. So even for me as an SMB, for me to produce a commercial historically would have cost me $50,000 to $75,000. And the shelf life of that is very limited. Correct. Well, now I can use AI to create a commercial.
And you just pump them up. Yeah.
So I think there are places where you'll see the applications come into the industry and into the space. I think our business tends to be very, very service driven. And so that service still for now, I think, is important. But again, like you're talking about with what Smart Fit does, with what Basic Fit does over there, we don't really have those models here yet. It is something I thought about in terms of when I wonder how somebody could crack the code on that from a North American perspective, which is, again, staffless clubs. People are, well, we already have that. That's Anytime Fitness or whatever. Well, not at 15,000 square feet. We don't. This is a whole different animal.
Correct.
Whole different animal.
A lot of automation, a lot of technology engagement.
Correct. So I think that's where we'll probably see the biggest growth is that, like your last statement, how people integrate the technology and what that ultimately does for automation.
No, nicely said. And then 2 final questions, nice and easy ones for you. I guess what advice would you give an aspiring entrepreneurial fitness leader who's just starting their journey in the fitness industry?
My advice to people is don't start too soon.
Okay.
Haven't
had that one before.
Don't start when you think you're ready. Start when you know you're ready.
Okay.
And when you know you're ready is when other people tell you that you should be doing it.
That's actually great advice. That's solid. Okay, nice one. I like that one. And then, of course, how do people connect with you, Chris?
I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram. I think it's like Smitness or something like that. Witness the Smitness or something like that. It's a merge of my last name, but not hard to find. Email as well. It's csmith@fitnessworld.ca. So I'm not trying to hide from anybody. It's certainly available and accessible to those that want to chat about anything at any time.
Nice one. Well, look, Chris, I really appreciate you jumping on the podcast. I think you simplify really complex ideas amazingly well, and I think for the listeners that will be really well appreciated. And then, of course, from my personal point of view, just thank you for all that you do. I think people in the industry can be inspired by you, and still keeping the core as, trying to help people, which is clearly what your background was and what you continue to deliver today. So yeah, thank you from the bottom of my heart, my friend.
All right, much appreciated. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, Chris.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.